You know, in the world of finance, there are legends, and then there's the Medallion Fund from Renaissance Technologies. It's this name that's whispered, this total black box that's so successful, it's like it's not even playing the same game as the rest of us. So we're going to dig into this because the real secret, well, it's not what you think it is.
Just look at this number, 66%. Let that just sit there for a moment. What does that even mean in the real world?
It means that for 30 years straight, this fund pulled in average returns that basically shatter every theory we have about how markets are supposed to work. It's a track record so good, so consistent, you'd be forgiven for thinking it was a typo.
Right, so that leads us to the big question we're tackling here. How on earth did they do it? Was it some kind of magical code? A ghost in the machine that nobody else could crack? Well, the answer is way more interesting than that. And believe it or not, it has less to do with software and more to do with structure.
The very first clue to understanding the whole medallion mystery is realizing it wasn't just a hedge fund, it was a machine built from the ground up to enforce one incredibly powerful idea. Skin in the game. You've heard the phrase, right? It's the simple idea that you have to eat your own cooking. When your own personal money is on the line, you get really, really interested in finding out what's true, and you find it out fast. Medallion didn't just encourage this, they engineered their entire company around it. Okay, now this is where the genius really shows. Let's walk through how they actually built this skin-in-the-game system. First, they have a super strict cap on how much money they manage. They intentionally stay small so they can be quick. Second, it's a closed shop. Only employees can put money in. That aligns everyone. Then you've got these insane fees. We're talking something like a 5% management fee and a 44% performance fee. But here's the kicker, the most important part. Everyone is forced to take their profits out at the end of every year. This stops the fund from getting bloated, which would actually make their trading signals worse over time. And this quote just nails the psychological effect of that structure. It creates this intense, rapid feedback loop. There's just no room for ego, no space to explain away a bad bet. When a loss hits your bank account, not some clients, you fix the broken model. Immediately. You're forced to get real with reality, way faster than anyone else. So we've established they have this incredible machine for finding the truth. But what is that machine actually optimized to do? Well, let's get to the second clue, because it's not what most people think. It's not about predicting the future. Okay, the 2020 crisis was the perfect test case. Something fascinating happened inside Renaissance itself. While the famous Medallion Fund was up a mind-blowing 76%, their other funds, the ones open to the public, actually cratered by about 30%. I mean, how is that even possible inside the same company? And here's the answer. Those public funds were running on models that assumed the market would behave like it always had. But when the Federal Reserve turned on the money printers like never before, those old models just broke. Medallion, though, was never built to predict that kind of thing. It was built to adapt. Its strategies were so short-term that they just feasted on the chaos, learning the new rules of the market in a matter of hours, not months. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. The last and maybe the most important edge you can have in markets today. If the world isn't predictable anymore, then what are you even trading?
The new edge. Let's call it the governance signal. In a world where governments and central banks can literally change the rules of the game with a single announcement, their decisions aren't just background noise anymore. They are the single most important tradable signal out there.
Let's look at a perfect example of this in action. The US government's strategy for the dollar. It's this really fascinating two-part game. On one side, they are doing everything in their power to keep the dollar on top right now. But on the other side, they're quietly hedging their bets against its value going down in the long run. For that short-term strength, just look at these moves. They're pushing for rules that would make crypto stablecoins have to be backed by US government debt. Think about that. They're creating a brand new captive customer for their own debt. At the same time, they're funding infrastructure projects abroad that lock other countries into paying back loans in dollars for decades. These are serious power plays to keep the dollar dominant today. But then you look at the other side of the trade, the defensive moves. They're building up a strategic Bitcoin reserve. But get this, it's funded by assets they've seized. It's a completely cost-free hedge against their own currency. They're auditing their gold reserves, snapping up valuable tech and land. The government itself is running a hedged portfolio, and if that's not a massive signal about the future, I don't know what is. Now, this whole idea of trading what governments do,
It's not just some abstract theory. You can see it play out on a massive geopolitical scale. Let's just take a look at the case of Venezuela.
What you're looking at here is a playbook for a financial siege. Phase 1, you strangle the economy with maximum pressure sanctions. Phase 2, you start seizing assets, using specific laws to liquidate things like their oil company, CITGO. And Phase 3, the poison pill, a plan to loan money to a new friendly government, a loan that's backed by the country's future oil production. This is basically economic warfare, and every single step is a predictable, tradable event if you know what to look for.
So, after peeling back all these layers, what's the big lesson here? What is the last real durable edge left in the market? Well, for starters, it explains why everyone who tries to copy Medallion fails. They get the mass, but they completely miss the point of the system. They raise too much money, which just drowns out their own signals. There's no real alignment, so the incentives reward managers for just playing it safe and surviving, not for actually being right. And yeah, their models get old, but because they don't have that skin in the game culture, they just never adapt.
And that's the absolute key. The failure is always structural, not mathematical. You could have the smartest algorithm ever written, but if the system around it rewards the wrong behaviors, it is going to fail, period. So all this leaves us with some really powerful lessons for anyone trying to build something that lasts. First, build systems where mistakes actually hurt, where error gets punished early. Second, stay small to protect your edge. Third, start thinking about things like policy and belief not as noise, but as actual tradable data. And maybe most important of all, figure out the human incentives of your system before you ever write a single line of code. Because that, in the end, is the real secret here. It was never about some magic piece of code locked away in a server room. It was about building a human system so perfectly structured, so intensely aligned with reality, that it forces everyone inside it to discover the truth before anyone else even knows there's a question to ask.